All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all glory and praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Honors and salutations to the hopeful elect, pushing this word in truth and sincerity. Or this is the brother Tawab Rakha from GMS Los Angeles / Inland Empire, coming back with another video in the spirit. And once again, Tawadi Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai for opening my eyes to this truth. Allow me to wake up another day and putting the spirit on me to do another lesson in hopes to edify and the hopeful elect. Okay, so in this video, what I want to go into is, what is it that has you so busy that you don't have time for the Lord? And I'm going into this because, we was kind of mentioned this last Saturday at camp about, now is the time to seek the Lord. This is definitely the time to really be engulfed in His word, man. Being watchful, being in the spirit, being tapped into what's going on, because it's a lot going on right now, and we don't want to be in that lackadaisical spirit, being in that complacent spirit, to the point where you don't know what the hell is going on. You tapped in, you're not knowing, you're not watching, you're not looking, for the prophecy. You're not watching the news, okay? You're not watching the videos, you're not studying, things of that nature, We want to make sure that, we want to, make sure that we're tapped into the spirit as much as possible, especially in these times, because, this, shit is about to get drastic out here very, very quickly, and we don't want to be caught off guard, and the only way not to be caught off guard is to continuously watch, watch, pray, like I said, just be tapped into the spirit, especially those of us that's laboring in this truth, because we have jobs, we have certain things that we do, brothers have hobbies and whatnot, but those things don't override our duty or obligation to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. That's why I titled this, what has you so busy that you don't have time for the Lord, And we want to make sure, wherever time we do get free, to use that, to, be mindful to, to take advantage of those times that, we may not be at work, or, brother, you may not be, with your family or whatnot, or whatever hobbies you like to do. You want to make sure you get it in for the Lord, man, and not be forgetful when it comes to that, this goes for me, myself, man, because I'm bringing this out. This is something we all got to be mindful of, because we don't want to, when the Lord come back, and the Lord say we slack, we want to make sure, we give this thing our all, to the best of our ability. Of course, every brother has different portions of faith. The Lord has given different brothers different gifts, but we want to make sure that we maximize, those opportunities, man. Every opportunity we get to do this work, take advantage, So with all that being said, I'm gonna get right into it, and Lord willing, I pray this be edifying. So the first scripture I'm gonna start with is 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 3. It says, "Thou therefore endure hardness as a good soldier of Yahweh Shai Hamashiach." You see that? So we gotta endure hardness because we're gonna go through all sorts of, trials, tribulations. Okay, that's going to come our way, and those things can vary. You know, it's different levels of trials and tribulations, you know, and that can come via your family, job, you know, your mind. You know, you battling demons in your mind. Okay, you're going through financial hardships. Okay, you might be dealing with ailments, sickness. Okay, you may be a brother that's you know, that you going through a rough time finding a job, or you just lost your job, whatever the case may be. You know, we have to endure these things, you know, and yet we also have to go out there and teach this word. You know, we still have to do our job, you know, and then that's what the Lord is looking at. The Lord is not looking at, you know, our carnal means on this earth. Of course, you know, brothers always push, starting apostles and elders on down, always push brothers to be responsible, brothers to take care of their business. You know, I'm not saying, you know, brothers don't be responsible. At the same time, you know, we can't forget that, you know, this work comes first. You know, the work comes first. All right, regardless of what state we in, we still gotta, you know, spread this word, man. You know, like it says in like it speaks about in Ezekiel 33, man. You know, we gotta blow that trumpet. We gotta warn our people so that the blood will be off our hands. Okay, we ain't out here sounding that alarm. Okay, and that's not just, you know, us going out there on the highways and byways, but also, you know, during the week, you know, doing our personal lessons, which are, you know, these are epistles, modern epistles. Okay, to build one another up, okay, to edify one another, okay, comfort one another. So this is our main, this should be our main affection, man. The things that should be mainly upon our heart, which is our mind. All right. It says back in 2 Timothy 2:3, it says, "Thou therefore endure hardness as a good soldier of Yahushua Hamashiach. No man that warreth entangleth himself with the affairs of this life, that he may please him who have chosen him to be a soldier." Because what does Yahushua say in John? He said, "You have not chosen me, but I have chosen you." Right? So the Lord has chosen, you know, the elect to be soldiers. Okay, and Lord willing, we always say, you know, we hope to be of the elect. Okay, because the elect is going to be able to endure all hardness. Okay, the Lord is going to harden the elect to where the elect is not going to be fazed by any of these things out here. Okay, none can pluck them out of the Lord's hand. Right? So this is the mindset we have to put on. Okay, not getting entangled with the affairs of this life. You know, not letting these mortal thoughts, you know, these you know, the weak nature to derail us, to derail our faith. You know, because the script, we've been told that, you know, as soon as you come into this truth, you're gonna catch hell, man. This is part of the you know, it comes with the territory. You know, so that shouldn't be a strange thing, you know, to us. You know, when we go through trials and tribulations. Of course, it's easier said than done. You know, but there's no other way, you know, to get through it but to go through it, man. You know, we all got to go through these trials and tribulations. You know, for one, You know, it's hardening us, and it's also we making us wiser. Making us wise and making us stronger. Okay, the Lord is hardening us through these tribulations, and especially the time that we're approaching. A time like no other. Our faith is going to have to be on a whole nother level. The things that we're getting ready to see, experience, go through. The Lord is definitely going to have to, have a mighty spirit upon us in those times. All right, I got another one. This is Luke chapter 21, verse 34. It says, "And take heed to yourselves, lest at any time your hearts be overcharged with suffering and drunkenness and cares of this life." And when you look at that word suffering, it means when you do something in excess. So if you're a brother that likes to go out and have a drink, right? You might like go to a bar or whatnot, and just to cut loose for a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that. But when it's done, when things are done like that excessively, it can become a problem. Because when you do something excessively, eventually it's gonna it's gonna be wear and tear. Like if you like to drink alcohol, if you do it in moderation, it's no problem. But when you do it excessively, it can cause all kind of health problems. And it's the same thing with this truth. If you do certain things, you might have a hobby you might like to do. If you do that too excessively, that takes time away from your studying, reading, doing shows. Okay. And then, when you come to camp, you're not going to be as sharp because, wherever that thing is that you're doing excessively, it's taken away from your studying. It does take away your ability to to go out there and be useful for the camp. And that's not what we want to. We don't want to exhibit that, man. We want to do what we got to be on top of our shit, man. Of course, to the best of our ability. Like I said, when Lord opened up time for us, that should be the main thing we take care of first. Is making time for the Lord, man, serving the Lord, pushing His word out. And then you can go and do whatever it is, your hobby, whatnot, whatever, But this word got to go out. All right. It says, "And take heed to yourselves, lest at any time your hearts be overcharged." And see, this is Yahweh Shai speaking. Yahweh Shai is saying these things. Okay. So we got to take heed, man. It says, "Lest at any time your hearts be overcharged with suffering and drunkenness and cares of this life, and so that they come upon you unawares." Right. Because if we're too engulfed in certain things, you're not going to know what the hell is going on. If you, like Jake in the world, Jake that's caught up into all this bread and circus out here. Jake don't know what the hell is going on. Jake ain't gonna know what the hell is going on until it's too late. And us that's in the truth, knowing what we know, we should know better. So seeing all these things going on, we should be on fire, man. It's a lot of things to talk about. See we see this I guess the shutdown to get the U.S. Shutdown is over. And Trump talking about you know, he gonna give people, you know, he gonna give out some stimmies. You know, we'll see. But anyway, like I said, it's a lot to talk about. You know, so it's just we just gotta make those necessary adjustments. You know, to make sure that we doing what we have to do for the Lord, man. Bottom line. All right. So I gotta know what this is. Bear with me 1 second. This is Luke chapter 14, verse 16. It says, Then said he unto him, a certain man made a great supper and bade many, and sent his servant at supper time to say to them that were bidding, Come, for all things are now ready. And they all with one consent began to make excuse. The first said unto him, I have bought a piece of ground, and I must needs go and see it. I pray thee have me excused. Right. So this is likening us unto doing the work. Okay, going out there teaching. Okay. That's like that. That's what that is. You know, preparing that supper, that you know, that feast. You know, and you, like I said, you got this individual that said, you know, I bought a piece of ground. You know, I bought a house, bought property, whatever. You know, and they trying to, you know, find an excuse and not to do the work of the Lord. We don't want to be in that spirit, okay? Slocky, I'm back. I'm going to start back at Luke chapter 14, verse 19. It says, And another said, I have bought 5 yoke of oxen, and I go to prove them. I pray thee have me excused. And another said, I have married a wife, and therefore I cannot come. So that servant came and showed his lord these things. Then the master of the house, being angry, said to his servant, Go out quickly into the streets and lanes of the city, and bring in hither the poor and the maimed and the halt and the blind. And the servant said, Lord, it is done as thou hast commanded, yet there is room. And the Lord said unto that servant, Go out into the highways and hedges and compel them to come in, that my house may be filled. And that's what, you know, that we're starting our apostles L's on down. That's what we do when we go out there on highways and byways. You know, we're compelling them, being potential members of the elect, to come into that house, this truth. Okay, you know, we're preparing them, you know, spiritually, that supper, you know, which, you know, that when Yahushua returns, you know, to deliver the elect. Okay, that's what basically pretty much that's what this parable is speaking about. Okay, so those individuals, the ones that made excuses to why, you know, they weren't able to, you know, to come, you know, like it says, the Lord was angry with those individuals. Okay, and we don't want to be those individuals. Okay, that, you know, had that lukewarm spirit, you know, that had that spirit of, you know, not being enthused by this word, you know. And that's why, once again, I titled the video, What is it in this world that has, you know, you busy to where you don't have time for the Lord, you know? Because wherever you put in, that's what you're going to get out, man. Every man is going to reap what he sows, you know? The Lord is not mocked, man. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. That's why, you know, I just wanted to throw that out there, man, you know? So, like I said, man, it goes for all of us, you know, just something to be mindful of. So with that, I'm going to give all glory and praises to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Ashur HaKodash, the honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Honors and salutations to the hopeful elect, pushing his word, truth, sincerity. Shalom.